Hello, everybody. We have about a minute until we'll get started. Thank you for joining. We'll go ahead and get started here in just a minute. As people are joining, we'll give people a little bit more time. Happy Tuesday to everybody. It's 11 o'clock. To be respectful of everybody's time, we'll go ahead and get started here. My name is Kennedy Taylor, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing for asTech, driven by Repairify. And today we're hosting our second webinar. The topic is leveraging adasThink for transparency between shops and insurance carriers. We're really looking forward to this discussion. We have a great subject matter experts that are going to be joining us, Craig and Dan. We'll jump into the agenda. So we'll go ahead and get started today by doing some introductions so you guys know who is providing the information to you. We're going to talk about what asTech does. What is our core business functions, which is going to lead us into calibrations and adasThink, which is our calibration identification software, which is then going to take us into our insurance strategy. And we're going to go over what we've learned and then ultimately talk about how we're bridging the gap between shops and carriers in 2025. And then we'll wrap up with questions. So you'll see a QR code in the bottom right on this slide. Feel free to scan this QR code, and from there you'll be able to submit questions. And that QR code will also be available on every slide throughout the discussion today. I'm going to be moderating the discussion. We are going to have a PowerPoint that's going to give you some information that you'll be able to see on the screen, but the goal really is to just have a discussion about asTech, calibrations, adasThink, and really the go forward plan for how we're supporting shops and carriers in 2025. So with that, let's get into our panel introductions. Craig, would you go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Good morning, all. My name is Craig Edmonds. Happy to join you today. I just by way of background, started my career several years ago at Progressive Insurance, where I spent 28 years. Started out as an adjuster and kind of worked my way through the ranks as a leader, both in operations and process. Couple of highlighted roles. I was the head of claims for the Northwest for a period of time, and for the last 7 years that I was at Progressive, I was the leader of auto physical damage process for the company. I moved on to Esurance, which is an Allstate company, where I spent 5 years as their leader of process and ultimately held their chief claims officer role for 1 year before Esurance actually merged into Allstate. And I spent 3 years at Allstate as their leader of auto physical damage. And I'm happy to announce for the last year plus, I'm privileged to be the president of asTech, where I've been certainly learning a lot, and fortunate enough to work with experts like Dan Young, who I'm going to go ahead and let himself introduce now.
Good morning, everybody. Dan Young, currently with asTech, been here from the very beginning when it was just a startup way back in 2016. I feel really lucky to have been a part of this company from the very beginning, but also my experience. I learned a lot early on in my career, worked at Allstate, but I wasn't just in claims. I had an opportunity to work in underwriting at the time and risk management, and then a stint in sales as well. And then I left Allstate and went to CarStar at the time. They hadn't been purchased by Driven Brands yet, but that was a franchise organization. And I met some of the greatest small, medium, and large business owners in my life. I learned a lot from those people. They have a lot of courage, a lot of dedication to the business. A lot of them are legacy, bring their children in, generational businesses, super time there. I stuck around for a little while after Driven Brands bought CarStar. And then I left Driven Brands and came to Dallas to be a part of asTech way back in 2016. So happy to be on the call this morning. Thank you.
Thank you both for your time and for those introductions. So to help the audience, Dan, really understand where we're going with our conversation today, we thought it would be helpful if you could give us an overview, especially with your experience here, to talk about asTech and the core business functions that we offer to our collision shop customers today.
Oh, that's fine. I appreciate the opportunity. It's hard to talk about what we do today without, taking a step back just in time a little bit, right? When I got here in June of 2016, we didn't even have the Gen 2 device. And today we have the all-in-one device. And it certainly has a lot more horsepower to it. But it seems like a lifetime ago when Jake Rodenroth and I were traveling around the country talking to collision repair shops, talking to insurance carriers, bringing insurance carriers down to the Plano headquarters and walking them through kind of what this industry was going to face pretty quickly. We had a lot of meetings with Mike Anderson's consulting group, Collision Advice, right? And he's been a mentor of mine for probably close to 3 decades now. But what I would say is that we went from a company that was doing like 50 scans the day I started to thousands and thousands that we do today. But, what we tried to pass on was the fact that in 2016, only 3% of the cars on the road had ADAS. And today, most shops that fix cars as a result of collisions, I think the numbers are close, like 70% of the cars that we get to fix today are 5 years or newer. And when you think about that technology that you're trying to get your arms around, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, I think the numbers that you'll see here in a bit bear this out, but almost half the cars that we're working on today have at least one calibration that's necessary. And all of this has happened in the last 8.5 years. Today, we remain focused on our core product we brought to market in 2016, and that's the OEM scan with remote, right? With remote capability. Our system is much more advanced today than it was in the early days, just in terms of, hey, when somebody's using the asTech all-in-one or the Gen 2 and they connect it to the car and they're using the asTech Connect app, they tell us, hey, I need a pro scan, I need a pre-scan, whatever that is. The system recognizes the car that's involved. It recognizes the ASE iCar certified technician that needs to be involved in this scan. And it also tells the technician that I have the right OEM tool for this scan. And all that process today takes place thousands and thousands of times a day. It averages about 20 to 25 minutes. And part of that time has a lot to do with the new protocols that are in place by the various OEMs. Chrysler has the CAN-FD, and many of the manufacturers have gone to a DOIP. GM has, I think, VIP Tech, and all those protocols kind of take more time for all the modules and systems to get, talked to, opened up, looked at, and then assessed in the diagnostic service work that's done. But all of that takes place today, I said, in 20 to 25 minutes. And the other thing that people that want the OEM scan, we provide an OEM tool report on every one of those that's in your portal when you're using asTech. In 2022, through a lot of hard work, we developed an OEM compatible indemnified scan. It's our version, aftermarket scan done at the car side. And between the OEM and OEMC, we're doing thousands and thousands of those every day. We have probably 100 in-shop technicians located around the country in high volume repair centers. Between diagnostic and calibration work, they're doing tens of thousands of those items, those service reports a month. We're proud to be a part of mobile service in over 20 markets in the US. And we have long-standing global partnerships with Enterprise, which may have the most unique car park in the world. We're also partnered with Belron Safelite, the largest kind of provider of glass replacement. We're excited about the future. We're excited about the product adasThink and how that's going to help both sides of the collision repair education. Um, we all need to understand what the car needs to be repaired, whether it's calibration, steering, safety systems. We all need that much earlier in the repair process. Um, if we can get that done, the efficiency of the work that we're doing together with the shops on this call, with the carriers that pay for these services, ultimately, it's never been more important to return that car to the customer in the manner the OEM intended it to operate. It has so many safety systems on there that protect me from me when I'm out there driving. But we just need to, we've got a big job, and it's an important job, and happy to be on a call with people that are focused on that.
So what I heard you say essentially is that it's really easy to repair vehicles today. Did I get that right, Dan?
No, you did. And something I left out, right, is it's not just those people that are on the call. We have calls today from people that are in Europe, right? We do business in 23 countries. We're in 19 of them over in Europe, Australia, New Zealand. I mean, up in Canada. I mean, we have this kind of complex repair problem all over the world.
So to summarize, I mean, we have at every touch point for the customer, we are focused on how we can help them through the vehicle repair process through our suite of products and services, which leads us to, the specifics of what we're talking about today, which is adasThink and calibrations. And so you started talking about this just a little bit about the complexity of vehicles and how that has changed so much over the last several years. But walk us through adasThink and how it's a differentiator on the market today and what we've learned through our data of our adasThink reports.
Yeah, and those are some pretty crazy numbers when you look at them. You know, we've done 2 million adasThink reports, and a lot of those customers may be on the call a day, but when you generate 2 million adasThink reports out there, our customers, and we anticipate that number will be closer to 3 million by the time we get to the end of 2025. You you draw a lot of attention, right? And that attention is positive for us in the sense that we have carriers, large, small, medium-sized carriers that have come to us and said, we need training. We need training around diagnostics. We need training around calibrations. We need to understand the difference between static and dynamic calibrations. Are there both of those calibrations on the same vehicle? It's staggering the amount of information that's out there and available. And when you take 2 million reports and you start to work within our company, I mean, things I didn't have access to 8 years ago. We have a data insights team. We have a product development team. We have people that are just focused on continuous improvement of the services we deliver. But you can see the breakdown there. 44%, that kind of goes to my point I was making earlier, need some type of calibration before that car's delivered back. And some of these numbers are changing, and we'll go to a slide here in a minute, but you see that, of all the calibrations, approximately 20% of those adasThink reports tell us that it's a static, and 24% are dynamics. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but static calibrations, everybody on this call understands, tend to be Asian dominated, Honda, Toyota, Nissan, Hyundai, those tend to be static calibrations, which are, in a sense, target-based, target-placed targets versus the dynamic calibrations, which, 24% of the calibrations come back for GM, Chrysler. It doesn't mean other OEMs don't have those same dynamic calibrations, but they just dominate with dynamic calibrations. And one of the things that kind of surprised me is the average number of calibrations that you see on large sample size is 1.4 per report. Most accidents, very, very high percent of accidents are front end accidents, whether that's left turn, whether that's rear ending somebody. So it's not surprising when you see that lower section there, the top calibrations detected are front radar and front camera, right? And then you get into the 360 surround view camera. Fewer vehicles have that, but more of the high end ones tend to have those. I know I drive a Ford Explorer ST, and it's got that 360, and that's awesome to help me park because half the time I'm not sure where I'm at. Front blind spots and rear cameras bring up the fewest number of calibrations from a percentage standpoint that we see. But it's just the proliferation of these ADAS features on these cars is driving what all of us are trying to deal with.
And that the next slide, visually shows the changes of the calibrations needed. So would you mind walking us through this graph and what this means to our customers?
It's really interesting. I know bar charts can, make you dizzy half the time, but just if you focus on the lower section, the blue, the darker blue, those are from the adasThink reports. Those are the vehicles and the number of static calibrations that those reports yielded. And then as you move from 2015, which we all know, I mean, we barely had any vehicles that had these systems in there, but as you started to add more and more of the forward-facing camera, collision mitigated braking, automatic emergency braking, blind spots, all of those things started to create more calibrations. And you can see that at the height of kind of the numbers here, the chart in 2018, you had 69% of all the calibrations identified in adasThink were static. And now you start to see that as we move towards 2025, the amount of adasThink static calibrations is dropping, but that middle section, that dark orange, you can see it's going from 2% in 2020 up to 25, and it's up to 29% this year, and that is OEMs that are generating vehicles that have the ability to either be statically or dynamically calibrated. And that helps a lot of the people that may be on this call up in the Northeast or up in the upper Midwest in the North, where snow and packed roads make it hard for dynamic calibrations to be completed because they can't see the lane markers and the roadways and the signs are obstructed from snow drifts and things like that. But I think you're starting, at least the information we see is you're starting to see more and more of these vehicles manufactured with the ability to perform calibrations either way.
Mm-hmm. Craig, is there anything you want to add to this?
I think Dan did an excellent job. I mean, the only thing I would just provide for context is this data is adasThink data for 2024. So just for context, if you're wondering what the source is. And I think Dan hit on this, but we could also drill down for domestic and Asian and European manufacturers. And what you would see is with domestic, you would see a higher percentage of dynamics. With Asians, you would see a little higher percentage of statics, with more trending towards the dual or the either or. And with Euros, you would just see a pretty good mix. But otherwise, I think Dan did an excellent job summarizing this.
So the foundation so far is to give you guys an understanding of what asTech does and the core business functions that we offer, how we look at data, adasThink specifically, and what that leads us to into calibrations, which then leads us into our insurance strategy. And Craig, this is where I'll turn it over to you. So we entered into the insurance space last year, and curious if you can share with us what insights, that we learned and how that has shaped our insurance strategy in 2025, specifically leveraging all of this data that we've been talking about.
Sure, thanks. So the impetus behind our insurance strategy in 2024 was to help our shop customers with respect to reimbursements for both scans and calibrations. So reimbursements were a challenge in 2024, and unfortunately, I can personally attest that they remain a challenge in 2025. So to that end, our strategy hasn't been quite as successful as we would have hoped. So to answer your question in terms of what have we learned, well, many of the insurance carriers that we've talked to, at least with respect to calibrations, are focused on three questions. And the first is, do we owe it? Second is, how much do we owe? And the third is, for those calibrations that we paid for, were they completed so that they could ensure that there was a safe and proper repair for their policyholders? So our approach in 2024 was admittedly more focused on number two in terms of calibration of our standardized pricing, rather. And what I think we've learned is had we focused more on number one, determining the necessity of a calibration, we would have been more effective in reducing the friction for reimbursements between shops and carriers. But as Dan mentioned, we're really fortunate at asTech because we have what we believe to be the best in class product for determining calibration necessity in adasThink. So Kennedy, kind of back to your question about 2025, our strategy kind of going forward from an insurance perspective is to introduce adasThink, which is a product that we continue to enhance every day, to insurers to help validate the calibration request of our shop customers. And we believe this will be more effective in streamlining the reimbursement process.
So you led perfectly into our next segment here of how are we bridging the gap between shops and carriers through adasThink and the benefits that provides to shops. So we clearly see there's a need to have this data be available to not only our collision customers, but also carriers. And so can you talk us through what this looks like and how we're bridging the gap and share a little bit more about that?
Sure. So what adasThink helps solve for is when shops and carriers both have visibility to it, they both see the same data. So adasThink clarifies for shops which calibrations are necessary for a proper repair, and it educates insurers on why those calibrations are required for that given repair. So it helps them both. And when shops and insurance adjusters are both leveraging the live real-time data that you see in adasThink, it enhances transparency. And transparency facilitates faster decision making. Faster decision making facilitates resolution, faster resolution, which makes both shops and insurance carriers more efficient. And when shops leverage adasThink at the beginning of a repair process or the repair process, it helps their repair planning, which makes them more productive. So from an outcome perspective, you have better transparency, you have less friction, you have faster resolution, and you have better collaboration within the industry. So we believe that's a win-win.
That is, and that was a great summary of how we're approaching this moving forward. And Dan, the next question that I think will be on people's minds is, how are we actually leveraging this in 2025? What insights can you share from any of our customers that are engaging with us in this year?
No, it's not. It reminds me. It's very similar to 8.5 years ago when we were inviting and talking to everybody about all this technology and what it was going to mean to the people trying to fix the car, cycle time, repair planning, blueprinting, severity issues, all those things, right? Like, was I going to have access to the modules? Was I going to have parts delays? All those things related to diagnostics and sensors and modules. So what I find now is there is this kind of huge appetite from the carrier side to catch up with where a lot of the shops are in terms of education and information and intelligence. And so over the last 4 to 6 months, I've been involved in probably 6, 7 different actual training sessions around diagnostics and calibrations and the adasThink product itself. And they're starving for this education because so many of them, whether it's the APD team, whether it's the DRP team, whether it's the virtual estimating team, supplement approval team, they're all trying to answer the question of what did the repair lines of the estimate dictate and mandate that car needs to be completed before we give it back to them, whether those are calibrations, whether those are steering repair operations, safety system operations. It's just, I need more information and I need it sooner in the repair process. And whether I'm a repairer and I can get my hands on that, or I'm an insurance company and I'm trying to determine if I owe for these things, the faster I can get that information. And if that information is the same, regardless of who ran the readable PDF through adasThink, I'm the benefactor of that because it tells me, hey, much earlier in the repair process, I know exactly which operations need to be done. And I can schedule that. I can blueprint, I can repair plan better. And if I can repair plan better, it's likely my cycle time will be better. if my cycle time's better, my rental days are not less, my CSI is probably higher. If my CSI, rental days, and cycle time are all better, if I'm a DRP shop, my scorecard's probably better. If I'm not a DRP, I'm OEM centric, certified, my numbers are good too, right? And so what we're trying to do is bring transparency to what needs to be done so the repair process itself reduces the amount of friction, improves the supplement handling process, improves kind of, I don't have to provide a supplement because everything's on the original estimate. And with the integrations that we've done with our diagnostic scanning and CCC and where we're headed with some of that with adasThink, all that information and all that documentation, which is so important on both sides, is really at your fingertips much earlier in the repair process. And that just leads to better efficiency across the board. And God knows we need that right now because everybody's struggling to keep people. Most of the technicians that are leaving the industry look more like me than you, right? And so that's really important.
Thank you, Dan. You pretty much just summarized this for me. But before we wrap up with our takeaways, I want to encourage everybody, if you have questions, feel free to scan that QR code in the bottom left before we get to Q&A. But for our final takeaways for the group, the industry is moving towards greater transparency between shops and insurers. And adasThink is driving efficiency and accuracy in ADAS calibration identifications. And asTech is really excited to be at the forefront of this and to be that conduit for our customers, our collision shop customers, to help support that greater transparency. 2025 is going to be a big year for improving insurer collaboration and streamlining shop reimbursements, which we want to help facilitate that in the best way possible. So that, I'd love to open it up to question and answer. So again, there's the QR code on the screen in front of you. Please feel free to submit your questions and we'll go ahead and get started. So a couple of questions have come in and I want to jump over to those. So Craig and Dan, will let you guys determine who wants to answer, but can you guys start by telling us what specific challenges do you foresee in getting insurance carriers and repair shops to adopt adasThink, and how do you guys plan to overcome these hurdles?
Well, Dan, maybe I'll start it out and you can maybe clean me up. But I would just start by saying I think that by providing visibility to adasThink, we believe that our product stands on its own. It's a differentiator, and what we're really focused on is just providing that transparency. And obviously, we've been leveraging adasThink with our shop customers for years now, and we're introducing it to carriers so that they have that same visibility. And I think that visibility will help address some of those obstacles that you're talking about, because I think at the end of the day, both shops and insurance carriers are interested in repairing vehicles back to pre-accident condition. And we believe we fundamentally have the best tool to help facilitate that and to do it in an expeditious manner. So we think adasThink plays a critical role in addressing those obstacles. And at asTech, we're excited about the opportunity to play that role. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, that's really it covers it. I would just say that of all the in-person training sessions that I've been a part of, and other people on the team, obviously, but it's really it's come down to they want to know which ones we owe for, right? Like it's not about what, they're not focused on what we don't owe. They're focused on, as early in the process, tell me what based upon the VIN decoding and all of the information that's being done to the car to fix it, it's generating the calibrations, the steering, and the safety system repairs that need to be done. They just want to know, what do we owe for? Which ones are based upon what's being done to fix the car do we owe for? And I think all of the nearly 2 million adasThink reports that are being generated are from customers of ours, and that information and that documentation is finding its way over into the documents in CCC, and that's where the carriers are getting and seeing this information, and they're saying, wow, it'd be great if we had that too. And so it's kind of, our customers are helping us bridge that gap and reduce kind of that feeling on the carrier side that we're not sure we owe this or not. So that's all good. We're all headed in the right direction.
And Kennedy, one other important factor is adasThink is the only tool of its kind that is integrated with CCC1 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely an advantage for our shop customers.
And one other thing I would say is, based on the hyperlinks that take the user to, either the OEM requirement or the OEM repair procedure, those things save people time in doing the research. And a lot of that research, right, wrong, or indifferent, doesn't end up on the estimate. But if I can cut that down for both sides, that's a win.
And with it, I think you actually have a direct link to that. The only tool that provides you a direct link to those OEM position statements as well.
That is accurate. That leads us into a great point, and you guys briefly touched on this, but our goal at asTech with our suite of products and devices is to enable our shops to return these vehicles that they're repairing back to OE standards for the safety of the consumer. So can you talk to us a little bit about how does adasThink contribute to reducing repair time and cost for shops? And ultimately, what impact does that have to the overall cost to the insurer and the policyholder?
Again,
I'll take this.
Go ahead, Dan.
Well, no, I'll just take a stab. I mean, I always like to personalize things, right? Like I recently relocated from Dallas to Kansas City, and my insurance, I moved here a year ago this month, right? My auto insurance happens to be up 36% this year. And so a lot of that's driven, I realize I live in a weather, impacted state, but it's just the extensive increase in the cost to repair these vehicles. If it's a bumper repair, if it's a front bumper repair, whatever it probably involves the need for a calibration. And so again, knowledge is power. I go back to my personal experience in working with the adjusters on the carrier side, and then working for so many years on the shop side with the asTech customers. If everybody has access to the same information, the friction is reduced. I reduce the friction and all the time on the phone. I start to be able to feel very comfortable that this shop over here is submitting calibrations and repair operations that we should pay for. I'm okay approving those. I start to really whittle down and focus the time on the really big items. And I'm not kind of like everything isn't a fight. And so that's what I see. And that's what I feel like the adasThink is providing both sides of the equation.
I think that's really well said. The only thing I would try to add to that is they're earlier in the process, whether it's from a repair perspective or from an adjusting perspective, that you can identify what needs to get done. The better off you are in resolving that repair and faster, improving cycle time. We have tools, whether it's our pre-scan or adasThink, that can enable a shop from the very get-go to understand what needs to happen so they can repair that vehicle effectively from the start.
And one of the things I know we've talked about internally and externally with our customers is there's so much more than what meets the eye regarding like a bumper. You might see the physical damage, but what damage is behind that bumper that you need this technology to be able to help identify for both the shop and the adjuster as they're working through that. Which leads me to, vehicles are getting smarter and the ADAS features are being added onto more vehicles at a very rapid pace. So how do you envision adasThink evolving as the adoption of ADAS technology in vehicles increases?
Well, again, I'll start and Dan can clean me up. So I think adasThink is a lot like many other technology products in the sense that the more data that we get, the more reports that we run, the more information we have to enhance that tool. So I think Dan said we completed 2 million reports last year. We expect to complete close to 3 million this year. That data is something that we leverage, within our product and our technology organization to improve our adasThink product every day. And I think just like AI technology, data like adasThink just improves as time goes on, and we certainly have a lot of volume, which is helping us just make that product better and better.
Great.
Yeah, I would add that, a lot of times estimates are written and the car isn't repaired yet, right? So people aren't necessarily sure about, putting things on estimates if they haven't really been done. But the one thing that you have when you write an estimate and you submit that readable PDF and you run it through adasThink, you've got a record of a date and time of if that, based upon the repair operation, what repair procedures were needed. So I think to have a record of that and to have it early on in the repair process, whether the car is scheduled in today, next week, a month from now, you can go back and both sides can say, oh, that's right, this is what I need, this is who I need to call. There's 22 hours on this repair estimate. So 4 days from now, 5 days from now, I need to make sure that the calibration entity that I use, if it's not asTech or whoever it is, that they're scheduled to be in and out there to continue to move that repair quickly towards completion.
Great. Thank you both. We have a few more questions to get to. Where does adasThink get its calibration information?
It gets the calibration repair procedures from the OEMs. We are partnered with AllData. We get the live links into the repair procedures from AllData. If a customer has a subscription to AllData, the links on the reports automatically fire. We use a vehicle VIN decoding where we're able to determine the ADAS features that are on that car. We get the vehicle build data. We feel very, very comfortable about that information that we have. If the information isn't available in AllData, you can do a quick learn up in the top bar of AllData, and you can get those repair procedures sent to you. But there's a very, very high percentage of those procedures that are part of the reporting that we deliver to the customer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a VIN decode to build sheet data and the estimate line data that drive the information in adasThink.
Great. So a couple other questions. Do you have any representatives within the US to visit shops so they can discuss your tools more in depth and train us one-on-one?
Yes, we do.
100%. And we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but anybody, Kennedy, if they want to reach out, or if there's somebody that they could, is there a way that they could, like, we could get everybody that attended this call kind of a note that says, hey, this is the number you need to call, or we can proactively reach back out to them. However that works, we're interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I have all of your contact information from when you registered for the event, and so we'll go ahead and send you a follow-up with our customer service information. You also can reach out to your account representative. If you don't know who that is, our customer service representative is the best place to start. That information can also be found on our website at asTech.com. But great question. We love to engage with our customers and look forward to supporting you in the field with those efforts. And one last question here, you guys, to wrap up. Are there any plans to improve the web-based interface to make uploading of PDFs easier? The file size is limited and very specific parameters.
I do not know the answer to that question. I'm being truthful, right? I don't want to make something up here, but it's certainly a question we can get answered to get back to them. I don't know the answer and don't want to make one up.
Yeah,
Well, I think, go ahead, Craig.
We'll get a response and post the response to that question, so we're completely accurate.
It's great feedback, and our product team is always working to enhance our product capabilities. And so that is definitely a good takeaway for us, and we'll get with product and again, follow up with a recap for you guys. So thank you all for joining. We are going to be holding monthly webinars And so moving forward, look out for the invitations. We send them via email. They're also posted on our social media channels. And moving forward as well, we look to have some more technical ones diving deeper into our products and really bringing our subject matter experts to support that. So thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, look out for that email from us. And we look forward to continuing, repairing vehicles back to OE standards and working with our great customers. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.